Go live.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go live, and then we'll stand for the pledge.
We're ready.
Okay, let's pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people.
Okay, a couple things to be added to this agenda before we approve it. We have the local law number something of 2021 to amend the handicap parking spaces. So this is a redo of something we did last year. I want to add that as item number 8. Then we have the resolution regarding Ulster County Mutual Aid Plan. And other than that, there's nothing else to add to the agenda that's new.
We're reappointing Mark.
Oh, you're
You can put
right.
that on the consent agenda if you want.
Let's appoint Mark to another term, and we'll put that on the consent agenda as you suggested. I'd like to motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any announcements?
I have a quick announcement just about the census. So we are going to be looped into data summits that they're holding between April and June. So we're signed up whenever they do happen. And in the meantime, I'm scheduling like a short, it's like a survey, I guess, with our new census partnership to talk about best practices, like what we did basically this time around. And so I don't know when that's going to happen, but I'll report back after it. So stay tuned.
Any other announcements the board wants to share? No. I would like to motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I motion that we open the one-way roadway public hearing regarding code 198.3D.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have some folks on the line. I'll let folks jump in, and then whatever is not covered live, we can just go over the other public comments that we've received in written form. So Kara, did you want to make a comment? I know you shared something. If you wanted to speak live, or anyone else. Anne, did you want to make a comment?
I'm happy to make a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Kara.
Most of you know me. My name's Kara Lee, and I live on Huguenot Street, 3 houses north of Mulberry. And I wanted to comment on the proposal to make Huguenot Street one way from Mulberry to Broadhead. And I just want to say I'm completely in favor of protecting Huguenot Street from more vehicular traffic, because I think we can expect just, always more traffic because of New Paltz's ever increasing popularity. But that being said, I really think the board has to look carefully at the impact this decision could have on Mulberry Street, which is a narrow lane. It doesn't have sidewalks. It doesn't have a bike lane. And the intersection with 32 is already so challenging for pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicular traffic. And it will be more challenging with the new light that is going in on 32 at the foot of Henry Du Bois. The entrance to the proposed townhouse on the southwest corner of Mulberry Street, across from the handicap parking that's being provided for Zero Place on Mulberry Street, and the increased use of the designated entrance to the Empire State Trail for the Wallkill Valley Land Trust. And I think it's true to say that eliminating the Broadhead Street as an exit from Huguenot Street will further concentrate traffic on Mulberry Street. So far as I know, there's only this one proposal being considered to reduce traffic between Mulberry and Broadhead, which is really the stretch that we're talking about. And I think it would be really good to look at all the options, including reversing the one-way direction so that it goes from Mulberry to Broadhead, which would still reduce traffic on Huguenot Street between Mulberry and Broadhead, but would not necessarily increase traffic exiting on Mulberry. And that's the issue, is getting out of Mulberry Street. And the other thing is to limit or prohibit truck traffic between Mulberry and Broadhead. You know, people are saying that there's a lot more truck traffic on Huguenot Street than there used to be, and it may be because people are getting more deliveries or because trucks are being routed that way through GPS. But that's something we should really look at, because there isn't really any need for there to be a lot of truck traffic. It's what produces the greatest amount of vibration, which could have an impact on the historic stone houses. And it's most disruptive to pedestrians and residents. So just in closing, I urge the board not to be hasty in making this decision. It would be unfortunate to create other problems with what is a seemingly simple solution. I suggest that the board hold the public hearing open until other options can be considered, and that there be a really meaningful effort to engage with residents on the street to achieve a good outcome. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Kara. Right, so the current proposal sticks with the law that's existed for some time, where the street is one way on Sunday mornings, and that goes in the direction where the cars go south.
Right.
And so what Kara is suggesting is just also considering maybe having the cars go one way north. So just to be super clear. All right, anyone else want to make a public comment?
Yes, I would.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, so 3 points. I don't know, although I see some of my neighbors who live between Broadhead and Mulberry and Huguenot Street. I just want to make sure procedurally that every resident who lives in that section has been notified about this. You've got at least one multifamily building and some people who may be out of town for the winter as well. I think it's imperative that they all are aware that this is a possibility and that they have an opportunity to weigh in. The second thing is something that occurred to me. It's conceivable that if this is changed, that residents who live on the north side of Huguenot Street, but in this block, won't be able to have county waste pick up their garbage because of the nature of the way the mechanism works on the trucks. Their cans would have to be on the opposite side of the street from where they live, which means in front of other people's houses. So it would be beneficial for the village to contact county waste and determine if they have an option for how they handle this, for example, already on certain one-way streets. So that's a consideration that you ought to take into account. And then finally, I'd like to second pretty much everything that Kara said about the potential impacts on Mulberry Street as a result of changing this traffic pattern. And we know that we can expect, based on some traffic studies that were done when Zero Place was in front of the planning board, that there likely will be some impacts on Mulberry Street. And I think it would be in the best interest of everybody if it's possible to make this a data-driven decision, and that once Zero Place and Stewart's have opened and the light is in place on the corner of Henry Du Bois and 32, at the minimum, those items, that you actually collect some data about how much traffic is moving and in which directions, both along Huguenot Street in this block in question, as well as on Mulberry and Broadhead. And then I think it would be easier to make some decisions about what options actually exist and whether it makes sense to change this. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Who's next? Public comment?
I'd like to speak. It's Greg Cannon, my wife Kathy, we are at 111 Huguenot. We are one of about maybe a dozen houses that are directly affected by this proposal. And I have to be completely honest, it shocks me that something like this can occur and reach this stage of a public hearing.
Oh, Greg, please.
Without a very...
My God.
Tim, please tell me. What have I done wrong?
That's the point. We
Greg,
keep public hearings open for a really long time. This is the first one. Look at the ones we do. This is the start. We're going to keep the public hearings open for a while because that's how we roll. So I was going to interject that before you started talking anyway.
I'm the member of the public.
That's the process.
Oh, a lot of hostility.
Thank you for the education. This is the public hearing and I'm the member of the public. So this is the public hearing. So you could keep it open. I mean, that's your prerogative, right?
Thank you.
So, Tim,
Wow.
It's really unbelievable that you're...
Yes, you are unbelievable. Go ahead.
Okay.
Stop.
There are
Just
12
stop.
properties
Wow.
that are directly affected. 12. I don't think it's asking too much in a small village for the government to notify its constituents who are going to be every day. This is not church on Sunday for 2 hours. This is every day. This affects us directly. 12 properties. So having said that, and having been, scorned by the mayor for no apparent reason, I'm not opposed, obviously, to reducing traffic on Huguenot Street. I don't know if this is a good idea because I just found out about it 24 hours ago. And I would like to second what Kara said, second what Michael said, that this needs to be an informed decision. For example, one of the things that I would think of when I do turn in onto Broadhead, there is a real issue, and everybody that I speak with, my neighbors, we all experience this. The way that the Salvation Army is arranged, the exit from that parking lot directly on to Broadhead, right in front of the intersection, means that oftentimes when you're looking to turn onto Broadhead, there is a car half pulled out blocking the lane. That happens regularly. So that is something that I think should be considered in the broader context. And I want to thank you all so much for allowing me as a tax-paying member of the public to speak my mind.
I'm not sure why the hostility, Tim.
I mean, I can explain the hostility because this board is so hyper transparent, and what we regularly endure from Mr. Cannon is all of these conspiracy theories and emails and accusations on social media. Follow the money. No, this is the reason we have public hearings is for feedback. So you're regularly looking for these conspiracy theories or things were done not correctly, and you come and lecture us when we handle the water crisis. This is just more of the same. And we are doing exactly what we are supposed to be doing. When we have an idea, we have a public hearing. Look at our short-term rental law. We've had it open for months now, putting notices on social media, putting notices in the paper. This constant list of accusations about bad behavior from Mr. Cannon. It's just I'm going to call you out on it because it's just exhausting and absurd.
Excuse me.
Wow.
It's really constant. Can you please tell me the last time that I addressed this body?
I can share the emails where you make these outrageous accusations about how the Zero Place apartment complex is designed and how unsavory activities or follow the money. It's just like your approach and your criticisms of what's essentially like community service is just so uncalled for, and we're just doing the best we can and trying to come up with with responses to what our community is asking us for. There's nothing underhanded. There's no follow the money accusations like you regularly go
You
for.
are
So
a
enough
kook,
with your nonsense.
I would say with all due
Let's
respect, but the
move
way
on,
you're
please.
behaving is
I would like
completely-
us to move on to the next public comment. Does
No,
anybody else?
excuse me. I don't think it's fair for me to be demeaned by the mayor and attacked in a way with no evidence whatsoever.
Sorry. I'll
We have
gladly show you
receipts,
evidence.
Mr. Cannon. We have receipts. We have videos from meetings. We have the emails that
Videos
you've
from
sent.
meetings. What are
So,
you
you
talking
know,
about?
That's a wonderful way to encourage public
What
participation.
videos
to
could you
attack
be
someone.
talking about? We haven't been to a public meeting since Zero Place, and we always try to be
No,
respectful.
okay.
You guys really.
we
this
need to
is-
move
When was
on,
water
please.
crisis, Tim?
Wow.
We
No,
need to
excuse
move
me.
on, please.
Excuse me. It's not okay to have the mayor attack a member of the public
Right.
for daring to.
It was not an attack. He listed things that you've said and done.
Show me the receipts then, please.
Yeah.
Without
Okay,
any
we have
evidence.
emails and look at meetings. I mean, it's
Yes,
not
we would
that
like to see that
complicated.
because that doesn't exist.
The
you are
email.
crazy.
I thought it was a public social media. If I sent you an email, that was to you, and it didn't.
Which is all foilable, which is all public, and you know your social media comments follow the money about zoning changes. Like
That's
enough,
social media.
enough with you,
There's-
Mr. Cannon.
I
Does anyone else have a public comment about the public
Even if
hearing
you
that we're in?
felt this
Oh, I
way,
see
what-
Anne. Anne
That's
would like
really-
to say something, please.
Unprofessional of you. I am.
thank you for behaving
I
so
am
low class.
stunned
Tim.
by your behavior. I am stunned.
I'm
Wow.
really
Say
Say
disappointed
somebody's
in all of
low
you.
class. It's a pretty classist thing to say.
Excuse me?
It's pretty classist when you call people low class. Don't do that. Thank you. Can
No
we please?
lecturing from crazy people.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Um,
we'll be leading the charge.
You know
against
nothing
you.
about me and where I come from, so please don't talk to me about class.
And even if you thought we were crazy, it's really unprofessional to call us out in public. I mean, that's
Anne,
ridiculous. Let's just.
can we get Anne's unmuted so she can chime in on our public hearing, please?
Okay. Hi, everybody. And thank you all for your service to the village. I just was going to sit here tonight and listen in, but basically, I want to just be clear that absolutely nothing was done intentionally by anyone. I had this idea months ago. I wrote to Tim back and forth. I said, what do you think of this? I talked casually to people who live next door to me on one side, and the minister, Craig, and I talked a lot. Sue, it was completely informal. There's a pandemic, so we don't have a whole lot of, close conversation these days, but just folks I ran into, Mike Reed on the rail trail, and everybody said, wow, what a great idea. And I wrote to Tim about it. It wasn't any deeper than that. What I do feel I am in love with Huguenot Street. I'm pretty sure everyone on this Zoom is in agreement with that. I've lived here for 30 years, and I have a 4-point program here. What many of you know, if you walk on Huguenot Street, and I see a lot of familiar faces, I'm always outside. I'm always out in front. I do my work outside. I read outside. My gardening is outside. And so organically, you just notice when things change. We have about double the cyclists that we had a year ago. And they're going 99 miles an hour, God bless them. But I think bike safety is really an issue here. And also what was mentioned about the truck traffic and just any traffic. These buildings are so fragile, and they are treasures, and they're irreplaceable, and they cost a fortune to repair. We've done a lot of reparation work on the street. They cost a fortune to repair. So it's kind of a preemptive strike in terms of protecting them. And another thing with the lowered traffic is, I talked at length to Craig about this. I don't know if that's his phone or not, but what we talked about is that it creates much more of a park-like atmosphere, which is much more tourist friendly. Now, since the the street has been closed off, which is one of the best things that's ever happened since I've lived here. That's really created much more of a park-like environment, and also I think really creates a beautiful streetscape. And and that makes us very tourist friendly, very walking friendly, very baby jogger friendly, whatever. My real concerns are that now, maybe since the pandemic, we have a lot of people that have moved here. If you've bought any of the preserves, like God rest his soul, Tom Nyquist, the Nyquist Preserve, the preserve, they're packed with all the people that have moved here. And they're all driving cars and they're parked all over the place. And I think what we're looking at is trying to just do a preemptive strike for perpetuity, to keep a more of a park-like setting. And it didn't go any deeper than that. I mean, that's about all I have to say. I just think it's kind of actually a little obvious. And Craig Schenkel said something, and I'm looking at that phone and wondering if it's Craig. We were talking about the church. He said, Ann, if it's good for the street, it's good for the church. Bang, that was so obvious to me. So again, no hidden agendas here. I just had an idea. I shared it with some people. They thought it was good, and I sent it on to you folks. That's it. Thank you. And thank you for the service you do for the village. Appreciate it.
Anyone else for public comment? So our intention is to continue to spread the word, just as we've done with numerous other public hearings. Just because we propose a law does not mean that that law will be adopted. You know, you can look at what we did last year when we were considering changing the law regarding the height of grass. We listened to the community. We did not adopt the law. We err on the side of being incredibly thorough, looking for feedback, looking for data. We're just trying to do the best we can. So this public hearing will continue to stay open.
I just want to
Tim,
add to, sorry.
Go ahead, Kara.
well, I just want to add one thing. And I think those of us who live on Huguenot Street make an effort, honestly, to share that resource with people in as gracious a way as possible.
I think that's true.
And I'm so happy to see people in the preserve every day. But I do have to say that it's increasingly a bit of a parking problem on Huguenot Street for people who want to visit the preserve. And I really can't think of what a solution to that is. But even just getting people to park in one direction would help.
Right.
And not on both sides of the street, because it actually becomes completely impassable sometimes.
That's true.
So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there while we're thinking about these things.
That's true.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, Kara. Actually, I had meant to bring that up because I noticed that when I was running the other day that it gets really tight these days sometimes if you go out in daylight.
Yep. Okay, that's it from me.
I just wanted to add too that thank you, Anne, for the idea. And I think it's important for our community to come together with ideas and for us to entertain them as a board and the community to entertain them. So, you know, that's all part of everyone's voice being heard. I love that there are so many people here today to, you know, share thoughts. So thank you all.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, I actually got excited. I was like, look at all the people here. I almost said it. I wish I had. And then I would have to be like, wait a second, I don't know. But I just want to say, you know, we're human, right? And, you know, when you get repeatedly bullied and accused of things, and, you know, to a certain extent, yes, we stepped into this, but like, sometimes you just got to push back because it's chronic and it needs to be, you know, it needs to be named.
You know, everybody
it's
has
very
to,
upsetting because it keeps people from wanting to do this.
right. Everybody needs to learn
That's
to be
true.
polite and respectful of one another. And it's a two-way street. So let's all work.
Yeah,
on
Kara,
it.
and when I get the emails that I get from certain individuals, it makes me not want to do this job.
I can imagine. Yep, I understand.
So let's move on to our short-term rental law.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Tom, you submitted a comment. Do you want to summarize your comment for us, for the public?
Sure, I'll be glad to. I didn't really prepare a comment, but I think you do have my written comment, which I tried honestly to make as brief as I possibly could, and I know I didn't totally succeed in that. I think I want to say basically 2, maybe 3 points. One is I do, and I'm speaking for my wife too, we do endorse the idea of looking at short-term rentals. That makes intuitive sense to us. But part 2 of that is, in our honest hearts of hearts, we have not had that problem where we live.
We lost Tom, he froze.
Oh, so sorry.
Hear you, Tom. Maybe it's Tim's internet. I don't know.
Yeah, I have internet that sometimes comes.
You want to maybe just turn off your video and see if we can just hear you. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah.
Tim, I think it's you.
Yeah, I think it's the mayor.
Yeah, because I can still hear Tom.
Okay. Should I go back to video? I don't mind. Can I just see, am I audible? I'm just not sure. Okay. So the point that I wanted to make in the letter, and I hope I did, is that I think there's real value in looking at short-term rentals. If you think about it sort of across the US and across the world, these issues are definitely coming up in communities. But the second point that I wanted to make is that honestly, in our experience living on Grove Street, the issue has not been short-term, but conventional rentals that aren't really very well regulated, that aren't necessarily well maintained. And I'm just basically urging the board to think broadly about, the issues of quality of life and affordability, because one of the things that makes sort of intuitive sense to me, and I suspect there are some data behind it, is that people who want to become homeowners in this community are competing with business interests of people who want to turn family, homes that were built for single families into rentals by the room. And a lot of things follow. Parking issues follow, noise issues definitely follow. Sometimes things like garbage and litter follow, unruly behavior follows. And we're just not, on Grove Street, we're just not seeing any of that attached to short-term rentals, partly because I think we have only one, and it's maintained by a really lovely couple who are up here a lot and just kind of, I guess, use Airbnb as a way to make their weekend home work. So I'd like everybody to remain really fair about this and to consider all aspects of this and not run to the conclusion that it's always short-term rentals that are creating some of the quality of life issues that we face, and also some of the financial pressures on first time or lower budget home ownership, which I think is an important part of any community. So I'm sorry, that's probably as long as the letter I wrote, but that's the spirit of what is on my mind. Thanks.
Do we have any other public comments on the short-term rental? So our board last time discussed, because we've had this open now since November. I've had numerous public sessions on this proposed law. We have made some edits to it to actually tighten it up and make it really not to change any of the substance of the law, but really to make it more clear for both the property owners as well as for the enforcement division, which would be our building department. So I had our municipal attorney, Will Frank, take another look at it today. So he's triple checked our language, but I think because this is, an important law and we've spent so much time on it, I'm fine with closing the public hearing this evening, but I would prefer that we don't adopt it tonight. If the board could just commit to doing it a final proofread before the next meeting, that would be my suggestion.
That sounds good to me.
It works
Okay.
for me.
Okay.
I wanted to respond just to Tom a little bit. I really appreciated your letter. You made me think of things in a way that I hadn't thought of before, especially the incentive to keep the property better if you're doing Airbnb versus long-term rental. That's probably most certainly true. It makes sense, right? Of course, we always know that everything we do is just one thing in the toolkit in terms of quality of life and affordability. But I'm just super appreciative of the way you articulate things and get me noodling. The market pressure of this type of usage increases the costs of housing, right? So we're viewing it through that lens as well. And also the lens of, having people that are in the community to serve on volunteer boards. And, I think my peers could, chime in again. We tried to put at the front of the law, basically the background and the sort of context for why we're doing it. Yeah, I mean, I'm still fully in support, but I'm just wanted to thank you for making me think about it real differently.
Sure, of course, KT, thanks.
Okay, I motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the business agenda. Someone want to walk through item number 1? I don't mind jumping in if you want to, we can comment as we go, but I'll move to item number 2, the 2021 Partners in Preservation presentation. So Tom, I'll let you take it from here.
Great, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Okay, wonderful. Most of all, I want to start by thanking the village board for giving us this time every year. I think it's really important for the visibility of what we're trying to do. And, speaking of quality of life issues in the community, this is one part of it, admittedly not the biggest part, but it's still a significant part. So I just wanted to say for the record and to remind everyone, we've actually been doing this since 2010. So we're 10 years into, we've given 10 cycles of awards. And as you walk around the community, the list is getting longer and longer of business owners and in a couple of cases, private homeowners who've been given this award. So, just to pull a couple, P&G's has been given an award. Elise Bacon for her studio has been given an award. St. Andrew's Church, the New Paltz Community Improvement Team got one, not so much for a property, but for efforts. And the list is a lot longer and it is actually available on our website. So I won't go through all of that. But I wanted also to thank my colleagues. I get a chance to do this only once a year, to thank my HPC colleagues out loud and in public. So Camilla Nagy and Susan Wynn are both on this call. They are the co-deputy chairs of the HPC, and I thank you both so much for everything that you do. That's true also for Patricia Cobalt, who I think she's the mystery caller. Patricia, thank you so much for everything you do. Zach Bielecki was on the board for much of 2020, but then cycled over to the planning board. So I wanted to just take a moment to thank him. And then most recently, we've added Stephen Cook, who lives on Huguenot Street, and Chris Owens to our commission. I wanted to thank them both. They've been wonderful additions to our little group. And of course, I wanted to thank Bill Murray as liaison from the board to us. Bill is at almost every meeting and does a great job of keeping us informed. And last, but definitely not least, Valerie McAllister is our secretary, and she just keeps the wheels on everything, quite honestly. We would be a train off the tracks if it weren't for Valerie. But to our awards for this year, we are giving 2 awards this year. Both of them for people who've made really notable improvements to, in one case, the commercial area of North Front Street, and in the other case, to the residential area of Prospect Street. We thank both of them, and I'll introduce them individually in just a second, for doing the right thing and doing something really good and beautiful for the community, especially for, you know, the visual appeal of where we live, the streetscapes of North Front Street and Prospect. The first award is going to go to Ingrid Gersiek. Ingrid, can you see this award? This is actually going to come to your door in a couple of days. But Ingrid is, as many of you know, the owner of Little Light of Mine Village Candle on North Front Street, number 8. And she's being honored this year for improvements to the exterior of her property, to her business. And we thought as a preservation commission that her part in this quiet revival that's going on North Front Street, this is one of those things where, because you go to the street every day, you don't necessarily see that it actually has improved a lot in the last half decade or decade. And we felt that Ingrid was a big part of that, just by caring about her exterior in a way that we wish every small business owner did, paid as much attention to the outside of the building as stocking the inside. So Ingrid, thank you very much. If we were doing this live, I would be handing this over and shaking your hand, but I will be dropping it off. And if I may say, just keep the light shining. Sorry for the pun, but please keep the light shining. And the second award, everyone, goes, the second award is going out to Mark Eisenhandler and his wife, Deborah Healy. They live at 22 Prospect. And this is going out for exterior improvements that they've done, notably a wonderful new paint job on their house, and also something that a lot of people who live in the general area of Prospect know all about, which is a really lush, beautiful garden with all kinds of what seem to be experimental plants and cool things going on out in the garden. And the commission felt like you're a great example, Mark and Deborah, of creating a cute, well-preserved place that still has that New Paltz funk to it, because it's the best known purple house in the village, I think. And so we wanted to acknowledge that and reward that and thank you for that. And also to thank your neighbor and house painter, Mustafa Diado, for a big assist. He was the painter of your house, and you know, has some part in what I think is arguably the most famous purple house in our community. And what a great garden it is, Mark. So thank you both. And all three of you, I should say, all four of you with Mustafa. If you wanted to say a word or two, you'd be welcome to do that. There's no obligation.
Ingrid, do you want to? Well, I'll just say something really quickly. Thank you very much, Tom, and to the Historic Preservation Commission. It's appreciated that our efforts are noticed, and certainly having Mustafa doing the lion's share of the work on the house was just really transformative. So we really appreciate him as both a friend, neighbor, and our house painter. So yeah, thanks. Appreciate
Thank you so much, and to Deborah as well.
Yeah, I'll pass it on to her. Unfortunately, she's catching a baby right now, so.
Okay, that's probably what she should be doing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Deborah. And Ingrid, thank you so much indeed. And I will pledge to have these certificates to you in the next couple of days. Mark lives around the corner, and Ingrid, it's a quarter mile away. I'll just figure out a time to drop them off. Okay? Thank you so much. And thanks to the village board for giving us a little airtime.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much.
I love both award places.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to mute, and then I think I'm going to cycle off and have some dinner.
Thanks, Tom. So now we have an interview with Melrose Taylor for a seat on the Landlord Tenant Relations Council. Is Melrose here?
Hello. How are you guys doing? Let me put the video on. How are
Hey,
you guys doing?
Mel. Thanks for coming and for applying.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your interest in serving.
Well, I've been in New Paltz for about 5 going on 6 years now. I moved up here with my mom, and I kind of moved up here because I grew up in the Bronx, and I like the general vibe of this area more than like the stress and hostility of the city, so to speak. And like, I guess my time in here, like I saw a lot of people that were like dealing with a lot of like issues with like their landlords and like basically a lot of uncertainty with their living situations. And growing up in my situation, I had to deal with that a lot. So hearing about you guys, I figured, you know, why not try to reach out to you so that I can help people like them properly, instead of just being like, oh, hey, I've been through it too.
Right on.
So I just kind of want to like be the helping hand that like I needed when I was going through that to the people that, you know, needed that I know.
Thank you.
Anyone
No
have
problem.
specific questions for Mel?
I do. So one thing that sometimes I find difficult, you know, to be very honest, in a public meeting, as a renter, you know, it's really hard to be very, you know, even keeled and, you know, hear out everyone and be like, yeah, sure. Even when you're sensing that perhaps a landlord is totally being unfair in what they're doing, you know, so how would you feel about, you know, just being just helpful and polite and, you know, kind of being faced with sometimes having to, you know, also help out landlords as fair a way as we might usually more often help out tenants.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that. I actually, before I signed up, or I guess applied for this, I had like a slight agreement with my landlord where I was helping him out, and he kind of just like flipped the script. So yeah, I mean, I have no problem helping landlords if there's an understanding. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for understanding my question that I worded horribly.
No problem.
Anyone else have anything? I only have gratitude that you're stepping up, honestly.
Tom, did you
where
have a
I'm at.
question?
That's what I was going to say. Just thank you.
Sorry, I was just saying good night and thanks to everybody,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Good night.
including Nell for volunteering. That's cool.
Yeah,
Good night.
I just have had a lot of friends that have like had like a lot of struggle, you know, and like I was more just like a word of advice, I wasn't like an actual shoulder to lean on, you know, and it kind of like hurt me because I'm like sitting there like trying to help these people, and all I can do is like, oh, it's gonna get better, you know, just keep trying, and yeah, just like hearing that I could have a potential to help, it's just like, yeah, I have to, because like I've always been that person to take charge and take like, you know, initiative, so why not, you know? Especially being that it's a volunteer, like more of like a volunteer thing, like that's like I kind of like, that makes me want to get into it a little bit more, because like I'm not looking for any payment or anything. I just want people to know and be better, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's how we all wound up in this particular Zoom, all getting elected and stuff, that drive to just want to help for sure. And one cool thing, you know, just to speak to, you know, that tendency to help out friends that are, you know, dealing with housing and tenant landlord struggles, but not really having anything tangible, you know, to help them with. One cool thing about volunteering on this particular council is it's like such an opportunity to learn so much more about like all the resources that are available, you know, so, you know, volunteer for a term and, you know, you'll have like the equivalent of almost a law degree, honorary law degree, and like, you know, resources and be able to be really helpful for friends. So
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Because like going my route, I had no clue what to like, how to get out of my situation, and somehow I made it. So I just want to get better advice to the next one's up.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we appoint Melrose Taylor to a seat on the Landlord Tenant Relations Council.
second.
Oh, let Alex second. I'm
All in
so
favor?
silly like that.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, thank you and welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mel. See you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care,
I'm
guys.
seconding etiquette.
So next up, do we have Alana here to discuss the open air market?
She said she would log in just a moment. I told her we were a little bit behind, but we're actually kind of right on time now. I'll text
Okay,
her.
well, we can just circle back.
Totally.
When she shows up. So I'm going to move on to the item number 5. So there's a project that would involve annexation of a property that's contiguous with the SUNY New Paltz property. And so that property is currently located in the town, and the town would like to use attorney Rick Golden to represent them during the annexation process. We would use our village attorney, Will Frank. We just need to motion as a board, if we're okay with this, that the town would use Rick. And the reason that we're doing this is because Rick is also our planning board attorney. And you know, this entire process will still need to be, you know, we would consider it as a process and review it through the lens of annexation, and the planning board will review it. So this is just saying that we're comfortable and waiving any potential conflict of interest by greenlighting Rick representing the town. So I'd like to make a motion that we're okay with that.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So Alana is here. So we're gonna brainstorm a little bit about how we could host the open air market this coming year. Our board was spitballing a little bit about locations. You know, maybe there's an alternative location to using that small block on Church Street, which is ordinarily fine when we you know, can get a little bit closer, but with COVID, it would be preferable to spread the booths out a little bit. And then, you know, because there's some folks who live above the storefronts on that street, it creates some additional congestion issues. So we wanted to at least have a conversation with you, get your feedback on what you think might help. We can't hear. Are you muted?
I'm here. Hi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You are breaking up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, you guys, I'm sorry, I lost you guys for a minute. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here and talk about this. Yeah, I know that there was some concerns with the residents, at least in the beginning, when they found out that we were still having the market during the pandemic. And I did speak with those residents. Hopefully I quelled some of their fears, and they did start joining the market and shopping there. So I think that things kind of worked out, but it would be really great to have some more space, because we are spacing the tents out at least 10 feet from each other now that the pandemic is happening. And there are a lot of people that I wish that we could have had at the market as vendors, that we had to say no to because of the space limitations. So I am totally open to talking about what to do and where we can expand to.
So where have we come out in terms of, what other locations are we considering right now? I think we were all throwing around a bunch of different possibilities. Do we have any favorites that are rising to the top?
Well,
What
I
was
like
the
the idea.
answer about where the picnic tables were in the post office lot? Is that a possibility? Because that's my fave.
I think my favorite is down Academy Street.
The L.
Yeah, an L thing, dog leg, what have you. Starting on Church and then going down Academy.
I agree based on just based on how we wound up with the spot that it is in. From the perspective of not blocking any major like emergency type routes and stuff, and not blocking parking, and you know what I mean. I think I really like the L idea. I've been thinking a lot about it.
So keep going and around the corner, you're saying? So just keep going and around. And
yeah, could we do something like, instead of having the booths on the sides of the road, like having just a single line of booths in the middle? Would that create a little more breathing room for the folks who live above the commercial spaces?
I had the same thought, Tim. Even if they were in the middle and staggered, like there's just some ways to kind of make it work so that people kind of do like an outward, like you're going around a track, but an L-shaped track with awesome open air market vendors.
I love that too. I was just worried about then the second half of Church there is cut off from any traffic. Where Huckleberry is, because people would cut up Academy to go that way. So then there would be no traffic flow. So essentially we'd be closing down the lot of Church until North Front. So either we can spread out in a T, or, but I don't know if that, we're losing more spots then and cutting off that lot. So it's unfortunate because I love the idea of the L. That's the concern of mine.
It feels sort of cozy.
Okay, by default, you lose that stretch.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So maybe go straight.
But then you'd have to figure out all those people in that lot.
Yeah.
And that's people who, work and live on Main Street, as well as some people who work and live on Church Street. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then by default, Academy would just be, just there.
Well, yeah, that's less, but yeah.
Yeah, it would be just an unutilized little nook.
What if it's no, it can't be just on Academy, because then it's sort of tucked away.
So we don't like the post office idea?
I love the post office idea.
You guys could add to the one-way streets that Church Street is one way on Sundays in the other direction. Obviously, I'm joking.
I was like, what? Too tired for jokes.
Sorry, I had to.
It's all good.
I wonder if though, like that, like Academy to that second part of Church towards Front, like is even really needs to be accessible during those hours by vehicles. Because it's not that many spots. It's not like people are, I don't know. It's not that many spots.
You're talking about the rest of Church Street, you mean?
Yeah, I don't really think it would matter so much. I don't know.
I can tell you just from observing, most of the traffic comes down through the bistro parking lot. It doesn't so much come up Academy and down. And my only concern about extending it, I would love to have a big T and have a huge market, but my concern was that the parking lot for that is attached to one of the stores. I wasn't sure what they would feel about it, but and I've even fantasized about having it be in that parking lot as well.
Yeah, I just thought that too.
And maybe they could have a booth and maybe it would be worth it for them. I don't know. But it's been working out really well on Church Street, other than the concerns about the residents, which I'm not sure if you guys were getting concerns after the market really started, because I stopped hearing complaints about it, and I had kind of a dialogue with a bunch of the people that were concerned that lived on the street. But I do think more space would be great, because the vendors actually had a really good season. Maybe because of some of the tourism that was coming up, or somehow whatever the formula was, they made out really well this year. And there was some talk about maybe even extending this. I know we're not talking about this yet, but extending the season through up until the holidays, because a lot of the markets in the area, like I know the Hudson Market extended their season because of the pandemic and the interest in outdoor markets. So I had a lot of interest from the community and from the vendors to extend the market season. But yeah, but a larger market or more space would also be just really great.
Yeah, one of the residents reached out to the whole board, after the whole market season ended. Another resident, just likes to text me on occasion about it, but whatever, that's just Erin. So you did fine liaising with them, don't worry. They just had some suggestions that got us thinking, like, how could we make this really perfect and better?
Right, yeah. And I'm sure that it's probably, if you're living right above a market in any year, it's probably not so fun. It might get a little old every Sunday to have a market outside. So I understand, yeah. But, well, I'm totally open to these suggestions. I think they're great. And I think that Church Street, there's something about a farmer's market that it feels like it's like never successful unless you're tripping over it. Like, people don't go to, there's very small population of people that go out to a farmer's market. We do have those people that's what they're doing on Sunday locally, but a lot of our traffic is just like they happen upon it. They just like literally, it's like it's there and they come. So I think that the Church Street location has been really great for the market. But so I love the idea of extending it down, but I'm also open to thinking about other, like the picnic table situation. I felt like that maybe not have as much space as the Church Street, but
one advantage to going down Academy is you have that exposure onto North Chestnut. So people driving by or walking by, because you can't really see it as you're coming through town unless you go up the other way. So you have that sort of exposure that could bring the people that you're stating are coming to your market. When you say extending the season, are you saying extending forward or back towards the end? I didn't quite understand.
So forward, and I've even thought about starting earlier, but that's something to think about as well. But there's always the sadness when the market ends and the vendors say, oh, I wish we could still, and then the weather tends to be okay. And I personally visited some markets out of town or around Hudson Valley just to see what they were doing in the winter. And it was, when I realized how doable it is, people just have to bundle up. And if there's really harsh weather conditions, obviously we would just have to cancel. But I think that the vendors were really interested in like the aspect of a holiday market. The produce would be limited, but there's still a lot of farm goods, honey and maple syrup and jams and different things like that. And then we do have a lot of people that are, a lot of vendors that are selling kind of more gift items and holiday, so there was an interest of extending it a little bit more into the winter, at least up till like towards the end of December, weather permitting.
That would be a great way to address the issue that came up this year with the annual, de facto community center projects holiday fair that didn't happen this year. So there's all these vendors that, Amanda Sissenstein, always has lined up, for an indoor holiday, like one day market, who, are community members who just didn't get to do anything because of the pandemic. So I like being able to somehow consider a way to help that whole crew out too.
Okay, but let's not jump ahead. Let's not jump ahead. So we have an issue here where, I think Michelle's point about we can't use Academy because then we would in fact be shutting off all of Church Street. And then, that creates a problem because there's additional parking spots there. There are also parking spots on Academy that we would be losing. And then we would be blocking access to that parking lot that's on private property. So that's not an easy solution, or I don't know. I would say it's probably not a solution. Maybe the area in front of the post office where we had the picnic tables makes the most sense. Maybe we can squeeze a little more space there. I mean, the advantage of that, there are no buildings right there, so you could potentially have the same number of booths that you had on the Church Street block without feeling like we're infringing on the residential properties. Anyone else have any other ideas? I mean, I know we were talking about other locations, but a few years ago we experimented with being like off the beaten track, like at the Village Hall parking lot, and that was the saddest farmers market I've ever seen. It was like one guy with a banjo and another person selling like cauliflower.
So what you were saying before, we totally get that. Visibility is huge. I liked how you said it, how you have to trip over it. And the post office, over there by the picnic tables, that's very high visibility.
So will we be having that area, Tim, to use?
Well, we used a guerrilla tactic when we took the parking lot over for COVID.
Yeah.
We could try to reach out to the landlord and do it just Sundays. Certainly worth a shot. I could ask the landlord if they would consider it. The landlord struggles with us using that area because they feel like that parking, even though it's parking spaces that the village leases from that landlord, when we absorb that area for something other than parking, then they feel like it puts more pressure on their other parking spots in front of the post office and the laundromat. We all know that it's hard to be a New Paltz and have a conversation where people don't get worked up about parking. So
right, but it's an irrational lot that wastes and is not efficient. So maybe we should guerrilla the public square there, because you can get as many cars in if you just push them back a little bit, right? Or close.
Yeah, we have a design that
right
the engineers came up with where you could create proper aisles for parking and end up without a loss of parking spots. But that, we tried to pursue that with this landlord, but at the 11th hour they said no.
Right, but was it just from the footprint of the thing? Because we were gonna do a significant amount of stuff right there. When I say gorilla it, I'm like, just like, maybe we just say, this is a public square now, and please put the parking spaces over here, or a commons, whatever you want to call it. And then we have that dedicated to farmers market or people who want to hang out on picnic tables and I mean, it's worth an ask because we have the map. I don't know why at the 11th hour they didn't. Maybe they articulated enough to know, like, but it was like there was like a lot of stuff. This is like
Yeah, maybe that was part of the issue, is that in the past, when we were looking to use that front area on Main Street and take over some of the parking for something other than cars, we wanted to make improvements. Maybe we could just, essentially do what we did last year, where just block it off with some horses and put in some tables. So if it does need to be changed at any point in the future, the landlord would not be handcuffed to anything.
Good point.
And then we could try.
Yeah,
I'm willing.
You can go back if it's low footprint, low.
Yeah, I'm willing to send an email to the landlord and ask him if he would consider it. I had many conversations with him last year just to get us those few spots for picnic tables. That was not an easy negotiation.
Well,
that would be an awesome spot.
But that was also a lot because there needed to be communication with the post office and the laundromat and the businesses there. And we could just go over and talk to them about it again and just tap their pulse, and see if they're cool with it. So that doesn't need to be amorphous. That question can be answered. If they're down with it, then let's find out. And if they're not, maybe they could with some tweaks or something. We could do that. Been there, done that.
So if it's a no, what do we have a plan B or?
One step at a time.
Yeah. In the meantime, a quick question for Alana.
Right now.
Just plan A, please.
Hopefully plan A works. Alana, what kind of info do you need to be able to visualize, how many tables fit in like a totally different shaped space? What do you need from us to be able to think through this?
That's a good question. I was thinking about actually going out and like measuring stuff myself, or looking at maps and figuring it out, which I can totally do. I'm personally really open to both ideas, extending it however way you want on Church, or I kind of feel bad a little bit for the businesses on Church because I think they do like the market, although I know Kraus is not open on Sundays anymore. But I think like Gusta and the bookstores like the market being there. So that might just be something to like think about as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to the picnic table area. I didn't really think that was an option, but yeah. Once I kind of know a space, I can figure out the measurements and figure out how many people. I was waiting to send out the application for vendors for this year to get a little bit more information from all of you guys. But I could still send out an application without having all of the specifics at right now, and at least start getting applications in. So that's fine. So once I know a spot, I can figure out how many vendors we can have. We've just been doing 10 feet at least apart, and trying to zigzag tents as much as possible so that there's more of a space flow for traffic, for foot traffic. So I can kind of try to figure all that out. And if you want me to send you guys like a diagram or something to okay it, that would be cool too.
How many vendors did you have last year?
Well, that really depended because we had people start with us and not go all the way through in the very beginning, and then we had people come on at the end. But there were, I would say, around 10, maybe average. So yeah.
Great.
But a lot of people that we unfortunately had to say no to, who I think could have been a really great addition to the market. So in my mind, more space and allowing for more vendors would be awesome. And then we could really kind of expand the market. But because there's a lot of cool stuff going on in the area, and it's hard to say no to any of these vendors, but we just had to do it considering the space limitations.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna reach out to the landlord for the lot in front of the post office and see what they say. We'll get back to you.
Thank you, Alana.
Thank you, Alana.
Thank you for having me and being open to these ideas. It's great.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to motion to authorize the village clerk to advertise for a public hearing on February 10th at 7 p.m. for the purpose of discussing the 2020 consolidated funding application process for public infrastructure, public facilities, and/or community planning. Ariana, is this definitely the 2020 consolidated funding application or the 2021?
So I did not write this motion, and what I would do if I did is just move to set a public hearing on the CFA process.
Perfect. Okay, I accept your friendly amendment.
Okay.
Does someone want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item, leaf blower inquiry from Environmental Policy Board.
All right. Let me pull up an email. So yeah, I mean, so the EPB has been, let me get to the last bit though, has been really discussing leaf blowers. I think it first came up in the context of, them just being very noisy, and looking at, there's basically 1,000 different ways to regulate, fossil fuel loud leaf blowers. I don't even know how I feel about any of the different examples, because some of them are just so, I hate confusing policies. It's just my big thing. Anyway, I'll not editorialize first. But yeah, so yeah, the EPB has been really interested in looking at, regulating the use of fossil fuel leaf blowers, and I guess spoke with Blue on some of the research. And that's basically where it's at. I did bring up, a concern that we got a lot over my service in the Senate for my day job, a lot of phone calls from new Paltz people about workers' rights in the time of climate change. So that's just my one piece that I want to make sure we address as well in that whole issue, because you're having more 100-degree days when there's also leaves on the ground. So I would not want to do anything that would, make people have to suffer while dealing with leaves. But I was told that's not the plan. So yeah, that was basically it, to throw it to you all. Nothing very tangible or anything like that yet.
Are there places that have, are there laws in New York State that they looked at that are in New York?
Yeah, there's a lot. But
what's the impetus?
I don't like any of them.
Well, that's one,
because they're very confusing. Is the thing.
Like, it's not like, I'm trying to unravel, like.
Well, the issue is,
Is
you
it
know,
just
it's
that
one
they
more.
pass, or is it just
Hmm?
is it? What is it about them that you don't like?
You know, it's just additional like wasting of fossil fuels. You know.
No, not the leaf blowers.
Oh, I'm like.
I just posted the links in the agenda that were from the EPD.
You know, talking good tonight. I can't get the words out right.
Story of my life. So what I didn't like very much about them is, you know, how do you address kind of, I don't like laws that have times, you know, kind of like how the current one way on Sundays only at weird times, you know, those kinds of laws. That's what I see a lot of the New York State examples of leaf blower laws to be. And I don't like making things more confusing, but there's bits and pieces I think that could work from some of them. I don't know.
Well, Ari just included the NIAC law, and that looks pretty straightforward. If you want to take a look at that.
I mean, I just thinking, obviously, I would want to reduce fossil fuel usage as much as possible. But what about the person who is perhaps older or handicapped and uses a leaf blower, and that's their, I don't know, I'm just trying to think about, could this hurt anyone? It could hurt them financially, then they would have to hire someone. You know, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud. So in that case, the times are where the law feels better because it feels more equitable. It's tough. It's tough because it's a fossil fuel thing, but it creeps into, yeah.
Are we talking about elimination of all leaf blowers? Or are we interested in retaining the ability to use electric and battery powered ones?
So the Larchman law basically is, you know, bans them all except electric ones, and those can only be used the month of April and then mid-October to mid-December. And that's where I was just like, it's confusing. But it's an idea. I was so about this idea at first, you know, and then I started thinking about the class issues and just kind of like the Extinction Rebellion part. So I don't know. Throwing it to you guys.
So I want you to like hum more bars on the class issues for me, but also I'm looking at the NIAC thing, and it says it's a moratorium, so it's not a law, but it says on gas powered leaf blowers.
Right.
So this seems pretty simple, but I don't know why it's a moratorium and not a law.
But it's not all leaf blowers. Like, it's gas ones are done, they're cut. Right. And it's like a phased in thing too. It starts in like 2022. And then you can use electric only in these times.
Right. I'm just thinking, because there's obviously landscaping companies that have their fleet of items that they have invested in. So, you know, how does that impact them? You know, if they just purchase new gas powered, which we don't want them to do, but what if they just purchased a bunch of new equipment and then they won't be, you know what I mean? That then there's these other issues that could arise.
Right. I guess that's why places phase it in, right? Because
of
those issues. But what are the class issues? You're just worried that people are going to lose your jobs and a ripple effect from this?
Yeah, that was just one worry.
I guess that's kind of one of the remedies. It's like, heads up, this is coming. So when you buy your new stuff, buy the stuff you can use.
Yeah, I guess a phase-in would be the way to do it. This is probably the most straightforward law. There were some that were just like very much more like a noise ordinance, but you know, just for leaf blowers. which is weird. But the whole point is to get us off of using fossil fuels. So,
How about we write a resolution asking Governor Cuomo to pass a law statewide regarding leaf blowers and fossil fuels?
Yeah, there's no action in Albany on this. I mean,
Yeah,
it
is
feels
there
like one
any
of those things
statewide
again, it's all fine and dandy when, yeah, but if places are already doing it and they're not picking up on it.
Yeah, there's nothing I know of going on in Albany.
Well, we could write the bill and send it to them.
Yeah. I mean, I want to get us off of all the gas, right?
I mean, we had this conversation when we talked about grass length. We also need to stop thinking we got to cut this stuff and move it around so much. So, yes, the transition to not fossil fuel ones is part of this, but I think we wouldn't be having a full conversation here if we didn't also mention that maybe we should just do it less. And all the issues that came up with the grass, the bugs, the lime, it's similar, but we kind of gotta at least, I don't know.
So what are some good next steps? Oh, sorry.
Alex, was there something written to you from the EPB that sort of outlines their concerns and their interests and goals and that sort of thing?
Would you let the village board know the EPB has been discussing leaf blowers, and we've included blue in our research, and we're curious if the village board would be interested in advice from the environmental policy on that on the topic.
I wonder if they could send us some more details on what they'd like to see happen. I mean, that would help direct us in where we're going.
And vice versa. They should watch this conversation to see what,
yeah, sure,
came top of mind for us when we were.
Sure. But since they brought the topic up, the issue up, which is a good one, I think we need to hear from them directly in some way, additionally to this.
Yeah, definitely. I will report back accordingly. Yeah, basically there's just so many different approaches to it that personally I'm just like, I don't even know which one's the right one. I know what the end game is to get off of fossil fuels, for everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Let's continue the conversation.
Yeah.
I definitely hear him a lot in my neck of over here in the woods.
Okay, I'd like to move on to agenda item number 8 that we added. This would be amending the handicap parking space law. So Blue identified a hiccup in terms of the law that we tried to move previously. So this is just a correction. There's nothing else we need to do, Ariana, right? Besides just vote again.
No, I think you have to set a public hearing and we have to go
Oh,
through the
do we really?
process. Yeah.
Wow.
I know that's why I was like trying real hard to avoid it, but it's like not that simple to just change that 87 Main Street to 81 Main Street.
Okay, then I motion that we set a public hearing for the next meeting.
Second. Ari, I didn't get to look at the last email that came in. I was part of the earlier ones today, but so where is it being moved?
So it's basically being moved a few spots down from 87 Main Street to 81 Main Street. Because the 3 spots at the end are a loading zone.
So all
and I went and like tried to find stuff about loading zones and handicap parking spaces, and New York City actually like part of their permitting process for handicap parking is that you can park in a loading zone, but that's like very New York City specific. And it's only from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. that it's a loading zone, but the idea that there would be like additional signage there and potentially confusing people like about whether or not it's a loading zone or they could park there as a handicap spot, Blue just felt like it would be a lot simpler for us to do it in a different spot. So it'll be a few spots down, basically just right after the loading zone, which is the first 3 spots in front of Mexicali Blue by P&G's.
And is it okay, like, is it customary to have a handicap spot sort of in the middle of a street? I don't know, I seem to always notice them at the ends, but perhaps I'm just not noticing enough. So that was just one concern I wanted to look into, but we could set this and then go from there. I'll look
Right, because setting the public hearing, you could still change the location, but this at least is the first step towards actually getting this done a year later.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm sorry that we're going through it.
Okay, so I motion to set up a public hearing for the next meeting. Does that give us enough lead time, Ariana?
It does, yeah.
Okay, someone want to second that?
Second.
All in
Michelle
favor?
did stuff.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 So the next item is regarding the Ulster County Mutual Aid Plan. Someone want to explain this, provide a summary?
If you're looking to me, I haven't had a chance to look through it. It's 77 pages and, there's a lot there. Do we have to vote on it tonight?
Corey asked that we do, let me try to pull up his email. Okay, so it's regarding the updated Ulster County Mutual Aid Plan for the emergency services. It has been approved by the county executive and now needs local adoption by resolution. Corey has reviewed the plan and it doesn't differ very much from the previous one. This new one does include a lot of updated language to help further explain the services we agree to provide to other municipalities. Yeah, and he recently received a nudge by our local deputy fire coordinator that this needs to be done. And so he's hoping that we can do this tonight, and he's sorry about the last minute.
Okay, per the suggestion of Fire Chief Worthman, I motion we move the Ulster County Mutual Aid Plan.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I motion we move the resolution regarding the 2021 tax sale.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? What?
You skipped the LoSAP.
Oh, I'm gonna come back to that. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
That was unintentional. So the tax sale resolution, I'm calling the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I motion we move the point system adjustment for LoSAP for the New Paltz Volunteer Fire Department.
I have to abstain.
Oh, second.
Good idea. Okay, Alex seconded.
I was
in
all
favor?
like trying to use my seconding etiquette. And then-
We all were.
So the one thing about this resolution that you all need to decide on, it's highlighted in yellow below, and it has to do with how many points you're giving per month. So you can do anywhere from 1 to 5 points per month for, basically from March 7th of 2020 through the end of 2020. It's kind of towards it's in the be it resolved part of it after the COVID-19 pandemic 2020 heading. So I don't have actual advice on this. It's really totally up to you guys.
Okay, I would like to select the maximum number of points, 5.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Cool. Great choice.
The wise investment.
I couldn't agree more. Yes.
I'm just quoting Hudson Valley 1.
You mean yourself in Hudson Valley 1?
Yeah.
I motion that we move bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I'm
Do we have planning board liaison updates?
Sure, they met last week. Yes, last week, and approved the 5 Broadhead subdivision, the Stewart subdivision. So as you know, Tim, that's in the hands of our attorney. We're waiting for closing so that we can then take a look at the property physically, but we did get a fine report from our building inspector outlining the building's condition. You had asked our building inspector for a couple of items that I had mentioned that I was interested in pertaining to the foundation sill and the sill plate, and he has not had an opportunity to get over there to take a look or include that into his report. The other item was the Floyd Niffen residential project going on up on Millbrook, and that was approved unanimously.
Was a parkland or recreation fee collected for that new unit?
That been mentioned in previous meetings. I don't know yet if he's been delivered that figure yet. I can check with Alana and report back.
Okay.
I mean, that was discussed very early on, but it hadn't been just discussed in the last couple of meetings.
Okay. I'm also thinking for the Oliver House at 5 Broadhead. I was going to ask you privately, Bill, but I think maybe it'd be better to ask you publicly to strong arm you. I would love it if you took the reins of that project. Because I think what we're really going to need is help communicating to the contractor or developer community who may be interested in coming to take a look at the house. And now that we have Corey's report, which I would agree with you is very well detailed, so that would be an addendum to the RFP, and just promote that project. I think we spoke about the idea of having a few different times and dates where we can invite folks who may be interested in responding to the RFP. But I think that this kind of seems like the type of project that you would be good at taking charge of and making sure that the word gets out there, like really promoting it, because I think it'll be an important project, and for lack of a better word, it should be actually kind of fun to generate a lot of interest and conversation about what we could end up with. And we want a lot of different parties to consider cool ideas. So if you'd be interested, I don't know do you guys as a board think that we should wait for because I believe what we're going to need is a variance from the ZBA to green light that we're okay with, basically as a village, we're going to be pursuing a variance that this is a non-conforming use in the NBR, and because we want to just keep it as a single family home, because we want to be able to communicate to the folks who will respond to the RFP that all those I's have been dotted already, so all they're bidding on is the project and not having to then go back before the ZBA to pursue a variance. So should we wait for that? Should we continue to keep trying to nudge our attorneys to get our paperwork submitted to the ZBA asking for that variance, or should we do it in parallel?
I think we should get on it right away.
Yeah. So do you want to go ahead and nudge Will and see where he's at with preparing documentation for because we're going to be the applicant as the village to the ZBA asking for a variance from the ZBA for a non-conforming use. I'd like to believe that the ZBA will understand why this is makes a great deal of sense to issue that variance. But maybe you can work on nudging Will and Rick to get that sorted, and then scheduling the walkthroughs and promoting the promoting the opportunity for folks who might respond to the RFP to come and do a walkthrough.
Sure. Thanks. And, happy to do it. I'll put it on my list of building projects in the village.
Yeah.
But
All
yeah,
right. That sounds, I see you kind of taking charge and doing a nice job with something like this. So that would be great.
I'll try.
Okay, any ZBA update? Did they meet recently?
No, we haven't met.
Okay. Do we have anything else? I don't believe we need to go into executive session for anything. Then I think we can motion to adjourn. I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, good night.
Bye. Bye.
Good to see you.